Wow, I didn't think I'd be sitting in front of this camera and saying clap it up. Clap it up for ACCA 13, episode 8. The best episode of this series so far. Overall, excellent episode. Is finally gotten to the point where we've been waiting for it. It's finally got to the point where something's actually happening. To the point where we can finally say this was an excellent episode. Everything was on point, from the storytelling to the OST, which has the best music out of everything in the winter, I think. Forward progression, that is the biggest lesson to be learned from this series as we finally moved forward. We had to move back a little bit, but we finally moved forward with the story with the best standout episode. This is probably going to be the best episode of the entire series. I mean, unless the finale really blows our mind. The way this episode was structured, the things that we learned, and the way that it was paced, everything just finally meshed together for ACCA 13. Finally giving it the hype it deserves for it being a Madhouse anime. And I know Madhouse is losing that title of automatically being great to Studio Bones. But once again, Madhouse wins. This episode was fantastic. I can't rave about it enough. But let's get down to it. First and foremost, this might be a long one, guys, because we learned so much in this episode. The truth is out there. The truth is revealed. Everything about Gene, his family in the past, was put out on the table in this episode. We got to know more about Gene, Lada, Crow, maybe even Grossular, because Abend. First and foremost, let's talk about Abend. I mean, just this episode as a whole restored my faith in this series. But let's talk about Abend, the guy who was tasked with being the princess, not queen, being the princess's bodyguard. If that guy isn't Grossular, I'm going to be really disappointed. If he's not Grossular, at the very least, he has to be a relative or something of this man, because he looks exactly the same. He has the same demeanor, has the same look, hair, same personality type, even that same sense of justice, and maybe even a little bit of that same shadiness with some of the things that we have going on in this episode as we learn about Princess. It was Princess Schnee, that was her name, the king's daughter, of course, and her outlook on life and the reason why she ended up on that train that took her life and John's father's life, or Gene's father's life, so many years ago. And we find out why in this episode. I mean, the princess herself, she went on a trip abroad, and when she came back, she just had this whole new outlook on life, the world, and how the districts and the kingdom and everything is ran. And some of the people were kind of looking like that. Like, ever since she came back, she's been talking crazy, but she saw the world from a different point of view. And she felt that the kingdom would be better ran if they knew more about the people, if they knew more about what was going on in the outside world, because she said everything that we know about what's going on out there in the districts, we're getting from the council. As far as I'm concerned, that's rumors. We don't know if that's true. I mean, she just had a broad mind. She's been studying, she's been learning things, and the king was actually pleased with that. He looked at her with admiration and was like, it would be a shame to clip her wings. Maybe she does need to be free, but in order to do that, it's going to take a couple of things that's going to tear this family apart. And even the councilman, the privy councilman, who I normally suspected, he was on board with this as well. He was like, you know what, we can make this happen. This episode just has so much feels because of the sacrifices that everybody made for this princess, and ultimately that leads down to John, Alada, even Crow. I mean, oh man, the feels was just real in this episode. The king, especially his position in this thing, this is his daughter, and he's going to send his daughter off to be a commoner. And how they did it, I mean, again, this guy Ben, he was tasked with escorting the princess to one of the other districts, and he said he was given no choice. Basically, he was like, you can take this mission, but if you do, just know that if you fail, your life is forfeit, you're dead. So there's that. But he took the princess out to this, his task was to take her out to a boat, and then they're going to say that the boat sank. So that would say that she's dead. They're going to wipe her name from the world registry. Basically say she died, and she will be gone. She can go and live among the people because her actual, princess self wouldn't exist anymore. So it was pretty interesting for the king to actually take that and do that for his daughter, because he wanted to see her grow, expand, and truly love the world. And the position that it put Abend in as well is why I think that Abend is probably Grossular, because he's well known to be her bodyguard, her aide or whatever. So if she died, he probably had to change his name to Grossular, if he is Grossular, in order to cover that up, because I'm pretty sure he couldn't come back to the kingdom knowing that the princess died on his watch. So it's still some things there that you could pick apart. But the biggest thing about this episode was the involvement of a certain character. Before Abend went out on his mission, he told a privy councilman that I want to bring my personal servant with me. This person is devoted to me. I need him by my side. And the reason why he brought this person is because even though he couldn't go with the princess further, he was going to send this person to actually monitor the princess and tell him how her life is going out there as a commoner. This person happened to be Crow's father. And Crow came with his father too, and his father was so devoted to Abend. And Abend, this is where I say a little bit of the sneakiness of him came in a little bit. He knew how devoted Crow's father would be to him, to the point that he asked him to leave his child, and he was going to do it. He was like, if this is for you, if this is for the kingdom, then I would do it. But thankfully the kid was there. He was at the door listening, and he was like, you know what, I'm going to go with you, father. If this is for the king, I want to go too. So they go together. So now you have Abend, possibly Grossular, Crow, and his father, whose task is to monitor the queen and watch her his entire life. Not actually be involved with them, but just watch, monitor, much like how Crow is doing with Jean right now. I mean, he watched her grow and actually get a family and everything, while they just watch from afar. And it was just so many things, because we got to see Crow's side of things. His father was so engulfed in doing this that he barely had time for his son. The times they had together was very sweet. As a matter of fact, before they left, he told him, you're gonna have to put your life behind. You can't be who you are. You're gonna get this new identity, and this is going to be your life, is to basically follow this chick around, take pictures of her, and report back to me, which is Abend. And Abend's gonna report to the king what's going on. And like right before they left, you know, Crow, he was like, well, can we go get some of my favorite apple cake? Because he called his father. He was like, after we had that cake, you were gonna leave me. You were gonna leave me behind. I'm not gonna let you do that. I'm gonna go with you. They sacrificed so much, and this is why Crow was watching Jean all of his life when he was in high school. I mean, they watched this kid grow all the way up. Crow was much older than Jean too. Crow was like 25, and his father put him back in high school. He was like, now that the princess has a son, I want you to follow him in school, become friends with him, get on the photography team, do whatever you gotta do to stay in his life, take pictures. We're sending this back to my boss is sending it to the king. And just a matter of dedication, everything that was put in was so heartfelt and real, because these people are living in a happy life, but it's not for themselves, it's for somebody else. And we never stopped to think about how this affected Crow's life, because the father was so engulfed in this, is that he was actually on the train when Jean's mother and father died. And Crow, he couldn't express this to anybody because he's a spy. He couldn't tell anybody. So he had to go through life with no one to console him. And the person that is his friend, he actually had to act like his friend. And deep down, you know, he really wanted something there between him and Jean to be real. And he consoled him by best he can by saying, if you ever need anything, I'm here. But at the same time, he wishes somebody could have said that to him. And I think that's why he was a little bit more at ease when John found out that he was actually telling him, because now he can get this all out in the open, even though it's kind of sad and symbolic that now that he knows, Jean knows that Crow is following him, you know, he can't come around anymore, Lotta anymore. And what was symbolic about it is that Lotta actually made him some apple pie. Just like before they left, he made the apple cake for him. He had that piece of apple cake before he had to leave his life when he was a kid. He's not going to get the apple cake now. He's not going to be around Jean and Lotta anymore. I mean, just the threads, the feelings, and everything in this video was so real. I mean, the raw emotion. I mean, Jean is a deadpan, but to get the backstory from these characters is what was carrying this episode so much. Especially that soundtrack. It was just hitting everything on the right notes. But also, with Grossular, we found out that Grossular was actually in love with the princess as well. So he had to get reports of her being with somebody else from afar. And this is kind of backing my theory that Grossular is Abend, because remember when his mother died in the train accident, he did what he could to take the responsibility on his district and make sure everything was cleaned up and taken care of. it could very well be the same situation with Crow and his father. Like maybe Grossular is actually like the kid of Abend or something if he isn't Abend directly. But the thing is, the age and everything matches up for him to be Abend. Right now, I'm calling that Grossular is Abend. Just the sacrifices that everybody did for Princess Schnee, who was such a shining figure in herself, a very bubbly, charismatic type of person. And the king too, because remember we found out that Jean doesn't know who the building manager or the landlord is of the place that he works, and it actually is the king, because the king bought the building and then, you know, gave the job to the person who married the princess, and then that role was passed down to Jean. So he's always been there, and we know Lana sends care packages to the landlord. All this time she's been sending those packages to her grandfather. Like, wow, that's amazing. I mean, the king was always been there watching. He knows that these two people are his grandchildren, and that makes things make even more sense of why he's personally bringing them to tables, greeting them at parties and things, because he knows that's his family, and he might actually have something planned for them later. But man, it was just a really surreal episode, and the sacrifices that everybody gave up. The last talk that the king had with his daughter before he let her go, saying that I want you to go live your life and be happy. I hate that you can't be here and do this, but if this was best for you, then I will go ahead and sacrifice that. ACCA 13 finally getting to the meat of the matter, finally giving us that anticipation of feels, everything that we wanted from this series. And also, it's important to note that since the princess went away and her name was wiped away from the registry, Jean has no right to the royal throne anymore, which makes me think, I wonder if the king can reverse that somehow, knowing that Lana and Jean are his real family, his grandchildren. I wonder if he can reverse that. That's going to make more trouble for that other prince. I forgot his name now. Prince something. Anyway, the prince has been stalking Lana. That's going to make trouble for him if that happens, because oh shit, I almost forgot about the coup. Well, there's that. Okay, so ACCA 13, a 10 out of 10 episode, up in the ante, restoring my faith in this series. So guys, let me know what you thought of this episode in the comments below. If you like this video, go ahead and drop it a like. If you want to hear more, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, as there's not a shortage of content for you to indulge on this channel. And as I always say, you guys can be anywhere on YouTube right now. You chose to listen to me. I really appreciate that, so thanks for stopping by. On that note, it's your boy Scott signing out. See you soon.